See, the enemy has caught a glimpse of your future. And once you catch a glimpse of your future, the enemy will oppose you with his big guns because he doesn't want you to get to where you're going. The bigger the devil you face, the bigger the future you have. Say, if the dream is big enough, what? Say it again. Say it one more time. All right, and so 17 years of age, he has the love of his father. He's mantled, he's covered. That awakens something in him, and his unconscious begins to be moved on by the Spirit of God. And while his conscious mind rests, God begins to unleash his destiny. His brothers don't receive it, but God continues to give it. So God gives an even further dimension of the dream. And he goes to sleep, and in the dream now, it's not just 11 stalks of grain. Now the scene shifts from a harvest field to the heavens. We are now moving from an earthly dimension to a heavenly dimension. And in the heavenly dimension, he sees the sun, the moon, and when it says stars there, you need to realize it's talking about the constellations. The 12 major constellations of the heavens in our galaxy. And he sees 11 of the constellations, plus the sun and the moon, bowing down to his constellation. Haven't got time to get into all of that and which one it might be, but it's fascinating to just look at that. And so, when you read the prophet Joel, where it says the sun will be darkened and the moon will be turned to blood, you got to begin to realize that it's not talking about the literal sun or the literal moon. It's talking about something metaphoric there. Because, watch this. Joseph wakes up, shares his dream with his father and his mother and the family, and Jacob is offended. Because Jacob knows the sun is him, the moon is Rachel, and the constellations are the other 11 brothers. Why? Because Jacob knows, as the grandson of Abraham, that God said to Abraham at an earlier season, when he could not see how he would even have a son, while he's laying in his tent one night, under the canopy of canvas and skin, God says, your problem is your vision is too small. I need you to get out from under your covering and come under mine. And Abram, if you can count, watch. In the Hebrew, that word count is count down. Count, everybody say count down. All right. And literally, what he was saying is if you can count down the movement of the constellations and know when they make their circuit throughout a year's time, how many days it takes those constellations to get back to the same place in the sky, you'll know how many descendants you have. Watch this. Haven't got time to take you into Numbers or Leviticus, but when you get there, you discover all the tribes are numbered, 123,000, X amount of thousand, everything thousand. But every one of those tribes represents a constellation, and when you add the days of a year of 365, less all those zeros, you've got the tribes of Israel. Wow. And what God was saying was, Abram, if you can discern the movement and the cycles. You remember, Bishop talked about it yesterday. When God comes to Abram and says to his wife, when the time revives. In other words, when the sun and the moon and the stars are back in the same place in the sky next year. Are you breathing? If you see God right now and he gives you a promise, stand there and just trust him. Because while he may move in another direction, and sit on the circle of the earth. And while there may come a point you don't see him because he's out of your sight and beyond your blind spot, just stay where you are, because as surely as he went one way, he will come back another way, and you will see the heavens begin to line up, and when they do, you will have what he promised.